I do the intro, I guess.
You do the intro. Do you remember how?
Yeah, sure. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Build Your SaaS. This is the behind-the-scenes story of building a web app in 2025. I'm John Buda, a software engineer.
And I'm Justin Jackson. I do product and marketing. Follow along as we build and run Transistor.fm. John, we're back.
Yeah, it's been a while, 2 years, which is hard to believe.
I've missed doing it. I've missed doing this with you.
Yeah.
Maybe we just got to reboot it. Every week we could just get on a call like this.
I think we've probably tried to do this like a dozen times.
Yeah.
And it never worked out.
I mean, a lot was going on.
Yeah. There's a lot going on. Part of it is this is not necessarily the thing that gives me energy. Like you.
What are we doing here, John? What? Is it drain your battery a little bit?
A little bit. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's the hard. We'll talk about that later. There's a great topic about burnout that we could talk about a bit later. But yeah, it's been 2 years. I think the last time we appeared on an episode together was our Nashville team retreat episode. And then the last episode where it was just the two of us, April 19th, 2023. That's right after we hired Josh Anderton, and we did an update episode. So It has been a while.
It's been a while. Nothing's really happened since then, right?
You had a lot happen.
There was a lot.
Yeah, what's gone on in the last 2 years since people last heard from you?
The last 2 years, honestly, beyond 1 year, I don't even remember. But the last 2 years, there's been a lot. So I got married in October of 2024.
Yeah.
Right? What year is it? Yeah, 2024. Which was super fun in Guatemala.
It was really fun.
You were there. There was a lot of friends of the podcast and friends of Transistor there.
By the way, one of my favorite trips of all time. Just like it's getting to meet up with all of your friends. It was weird being with people that are all our age and just seeing the different. I mean, for you, it probably felt like a high school reunion because a lot of those people you grew up with.
Yeah.
But for me, I was just like, it also felt like a high school reunion and getting to meet all these people. It's like some people are just having babies for the first time. Some people like me, like my kids are all, older, people all over the map. And then just getting to hang out, like while you and Wendy were getting married and doing all the photos and stuff, we were out exploring Guatemala. So it felt like summer camp. It was so fun. It
was really fun. Yeah, it was a really nice time to see everyone. Yeah, Guatemala is a beautiful place, and you and your wife and Wendy and I all kind of traveled a little bit together afterwards for a couple of days too, which was super cool.
Went to Lake Atitlan. Is that how you call it?
Atitlan.
Yeah,
and hung out at a nice hotel and just kind of relaxed a little bit.
Lauren and I still talk about that too. Just the most beautiful, like sunsets. You felt like you were just in a different world.
Yeah. It's a super relaxing place.
Except for when Lauren and I got caught in a sudden downpour, and then
that's true.
We had to
we had to call the boat for you or something to come rescue you.
Yeah, we were we were staying on one side of the lake, and then Lauren and I decided to go out kind of late in the afternoon to the other side of the lake, and we didn't realize that the ferry only ran until a certain time. And so we missed the ferry, and then it just started downpouring like this crazy storm. And we had to message you on WhatsApp and say, please send a boat for us.
Yeah.
Some guy came and rescued us in the rain, and oh man.
Yeah, that was wild. Oh man. Yeah, but that was all super fun wedding.
Was that just a year ago? That was just it'll be your 1 year anniversary this October.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Man.
Yeah, it was a busy year. So following that, we had been talking a while, my wife and I, about, I don't know, potentially moving somewhere. Mm-hmm. So we decided to do a road trip in March for 6 weeks across the U.S., Western U.S. mostly. And the first place we stopped was Fort Collins in Colorado, and we have friends here. A friend of mine that I grew up with, who you met at the wedding.
He's hilarious.
Him and his wife and kids. We stayed here for a couple of weeks, and so it was the first stop on the tour. And they had a friend who was a realtor, and we were just like, well, let's look around and see what's around. Not really thinking we would, find a place or buy a place. And we found a place, and we put in an offer and got it, and then continued on the road trip for 4 more weeks, and then came back to Chicago and realized we had to sell 2 different places and move and pack up 2 places and, find a moving company and figure out all that moving across country.
Yeah.
So that was like the month of May was incredibly busy. And then we finally got here in the middle of June, and everything went really smoothly, both, selling and buying and finding movers. We found some good movers.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm glad that's over, but it was a lot. Yeah.
I mean, your place looks pretty set up. Your place looks more set up than my place. I still don't have art up on some of my walls.
Oh no, we have a guest room that's just the bed is full of artwork and a couple boxes, and the garage is full of stuff. So it's coming along. It's been really nice.
Yeah, I remember you saying you're going on that road trip because you'd been kind of like not happy in Chicago for a while. Just wanted to get somewhere else. Was ready to move.
Yeah.
Was ready to try something else. I think this also relates to this burnout topic we're going to talk about in a bit. But I remember saying, well, you should just go and check some places out. And then I couldn't believe it when you stopped in Fort Collins and you're like, oh yeah, we put in an offer. We're buying this place.
We had been here before years ago and had an idea we liked it, but we just really liked it when we stayed here. And all the neighbors and everyone's just been super nice and welcoming. It's a nice change of pace from Chicago, although, we'll miss Chicago and it's an amazing city, but we'd been there for a long time and just
looking for something different. Yeah.
Something different. Yeah. And so we did it. And it was, those few months were really tough to get work done and any momentum on things. Because there was just a million other things going on.
Yeah.
But we did it. And now we're here.
Yeah. I mean, and this is when we started the company, this was one of the original visions, is that we said, okay, if we could just get to the point where this replaces our salaries, and then beyond that, if the company gives us room and margin to have a good life, to, I need to move, we can move, there's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Both you and I have both bought new houses and moved since we started the company.
Yeah.
It's enabled, I think, more than we could have really ever asked for or dreamed. It's been incredible.
Yeah, I've talked about that with a lot of people, of just how grateful I am for the company and coworkers and you, and having this all work out. Because I don't know how anyone would move across the country with a regular job.
Yeah.
I don't understand how anyone would do it.
Yeah. You'd have to.
I mean, people do all the time.
You'd have to use vacation time.
Take time off.
It's having the capacity for a company to have the capacity for people to live their lives feels, first of all, it doesn't happen enough. And then, when you're in that position, you just feel super fortunate. Wow, this is great. Yeah. We get to do this. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, well, I've, this past summer, this past summer, we moved my second oldest out to Toronto to go to college out there. So now I have 2 kids out of the house. Sadie and Marty are both in school. And then I just have 2 at home, grade 11, grade 12. So I'm entering into an interesting phase where I've been mostly my whole life. Mostly my whole life, I've just been focused on trying to grind and provide for my family. And it's been interesting as the kids have started to move out, and then as the older 2 are just more independent, how for the first time I feel like I have the space to kind of be introspective and go, wait, what do I want? Am I a human being? Like, what's going on with me? And realizing what a weight that's been on me to have, and there's still, I'm still helping my kids out while they go to college, and there's still caregiving, lots of caregiving ahead of me, but it's certainly different than the other phases of family life.
Yeah.
And it's again, I think I'm just so grateful that the company, that Transistor, is at this phase right now where, as I'm now 45 and thinking all these probably 45-year-old thoughts like, who am I? What do I want? What do I want for the next phase of my life?
Why does my back hurt?
Why does my back hurt all the time? And kind of even opening up, having the energy and time to even focus on things that I would have never, I didn't really have energy to focus on before personally. It's been really nice to have that space, and feels like I'm at another kind of pivot point. We'll see what happens.
It seems like it, kind of based on the stuff you've been sending me and the things we've talked about. Recently.
Well, let's get into some of that. So, Aaron Francis writes this great weekly newsletter. I think he calls it This Week at Try Hard Studios, which is his company. And from the September 5th, 2025 issue, there was this article and a series of tweets about how burnout might not just be from, burning yourself out physically and mentally. You're burning the candle at both ends. That's our typical definition of burnout. And Aaron says, the idea that working hard does not lead to burnout, but the lack of hope leads to burnout. So if you're working really, really hard for something that you don't believe will pay off, it's super easy to lose motivation. And that's happened to me in the past. If you believe that the thing you're working on will have a payoff, the amount of work almost doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something about that idea. Now, I still think that the traditional form of burnout exists, but this idea that there's this other kind of burnout. So if burnout is like a kind of numbness or a persistent lack of motivation, a kind of deadening inside. That can be caused by, depression and overwhelm. And, I've had entrepreneurial friends who've gotten shingles. They've been so stressed out. So stress and overwhelm, that definitely is one form of burnout. But this idea of like, man, I'm working on something, but I no longer see the reason. I no longer am motivated by this. I think I can identify. Yeah,
I can identify to that. Maybe not in Transistor. I really haven't felt that necessarily with Transistor, but certainly previous jobs where you just like, you reach a point and you're like, I don't care anymore. And you're just sort of, I guess it's burnout, but it's just like, I don't really want to be working on this. I don't care about the end result. And then at that point, I feel like it's just over and you got to find a way out or something.
For me, what was kind of striking about this whole concept is that there's times I think I haven't realized I've been in this mode. Like I just keep going to the office, and then I would get to the office and I'd be like staring at my screen and being like, how come I can't get going? What's going on here?
And you felt that with Transistor too?
I think sometimes in the industry, and also just maybe also just wondering like, what's the motive? I mean, longtime listeners to the show will know that this isn't the first time we've kind of talked about these feelings. And I had this great call with Jason Cohen, the founder of WP Engine. And he said, Justin, what are you feeling? And I said, well, I don't know. Like, what do I have? What do I have the right to feel anything about? Like, it's, things are great. I'm healthy. My kids are healthy. My wife's healthy. We got a house. We got a car. We've got this company. We got a great team. It's still growing. Like, what do I have to be unhappy about? And he said, well, actually, it's super common at your stage. We've been doing Transistor almost 8 years, I think.
Yeah.
And he says, it's just super common for founders at this stage to be like, like, what are we doing this for now? And in the beginning, it's just so clear. Like when we started recording the show, I've been going back to old episodes. And one thing I got to say is having this record of everything, like I'd forgotten about so many of the conversations we've had.
Yeah. I honestly haven't really re-listened to many of those at all. I should do that.
It's, I find it kind of healthy. Like just, yeah, there's something, I mean, in terms of reflecting back and having perspective, it's so helpful to have this record of us talking things out. And at the beginning of the show, you know, we were motivated by like, we're trying to build this product, we're trying to build this company, we're trying to replace this thing. And then the motivation changes, you know? And so I don't think it's existential or anything. I think I'm just, again, at a point where I'm like, okay, well, my kids are almost out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 45. And I think the podcast hosting industry has definitely reached a point of maturity. Like as I've gone and talked to, the podcast industry is so unique in that the competitors are actually pretty friendly with each other.
Yeah, it seems that way. We just
recently lost Todd Cochran, the founder of Blueberry, who's a competitor. And he was a friend. And his death like affected a lot of folks in the industry. But, you know, speaking to everybody, I think we've all recognized like podcast hosting now is I mean, you said this too. It's kind of a commodity. We've matured.
Yeah. They're all the competitors are basically the same with like different little things on top that they've come up with on their own or little differences here and there. But ultimately it's like the same stuff.
And so, yeah, I think it's also been helpful for me to go back and I've just been looking at, for example, all of our historical revenue numbers and looking at when did we really grow and what have we done since? And the whole industry kind of experienced this. You know, you and I started Transistor when the market had just kind of expanded because of Serial, because podcasts were just kind of in the public consciousness for the first time. Saturday Night Live was doing skits on podcasts for the first time. You know, all of a sudden it was like, this was a new thing. It wasn't new, but this was a new thing that a lot of people were discovering. And the market went from being kind of this big, smaller, to it just like expanded really quick. Mm-hmm. And so our first, 2018, 2019, we're just gobbling up market share. And then the pandemic happened. And again, perspective is so interesting because at the time, you and I were kind of struggling. It was just like the pandemic and all the politics and all, the shutdown. It was like depressing. And I think at the time we didn't even quite recognize what was happening, but the company grew a ton in 2020. Like if you look at the numbers, it's like in the hundreds of percentage points. Like it was just it was pretty massive wild, increase. And the same with 2021. And since then, we've basically grown every year, but by the same amount. So that chunk of new revenue we're getting every year has not changed a lot. And there's part of it for me, I think I was just like, man, we've built a lot of things since then. And, part of building something is just because you want to build it, because you want to see it in the world as a podcaster, because I want to use it myself. But another motivating part is like, oh man, it'd be nice to see a direct correlation between this thing that we're building and then new revenue.
Yeah, but I think, but I guess going back to your point of like, at the beginning, we had these concrete goals of like, all right, we want to make this much so that at this point we can make this our full-time job. And then, we want to be each making this much amount of money, at this point in time. Now it's like, yeah, sure, we want some more customers and more revenue, but like to what end? What does that even achieve? Like, it's not going to change our lives anymore.
Yeah.
So that motivating factor isn't there. I mean, it's like, I still get motivated by building certain features that are cool and exciting and customers might like it, but at the end of the day, like, it might not really move the needle, or it might, and if it does move the needle, like, what does moving the needle mean? It's not going to dramatically change our lives.
Yeah.
Which I think maybe is part of the burnout discussion of like, what are you working towards? Because if it's just numbers and money, we're already at that point.
Yeah.
So,
what's the point?
What's the motivating factor? So yeah, I don't know that we know the answer to that at the moment, right? Because we've been talking about it.
Well, and this is what was so helpful about that chat with Jason Cohen is he kind of gave me this framework. I can link it in the show notes, but it's a framework for getting what you want as a startup founder. And he basically says, okay, well, you each, Jon and Justin, you each need to ask, what do you want? And to be clear about it. And it might just be reaffirming something you've always felt. Like maybe, like in your case, maybe it hasn't changed that much. And maybe for me, it has changed and I need to be honest about it. But just getting really clear about, okay, now at this stage of my life, what is the next thing I want that's going to be motivating for me? Or it could even just be a thing. I mean, another thing that was kind of maybe affecting me was going, do I like being in this industry? Like, I need to ask myself that question. And, every time I go to a podcast conference, I kind of have this feeling of like, do I still like this? There's been so much more focus on YouTube, and, the big centralized platforms were already kind of in there. And for me, there was something about these big platforms dominating the conversation that was demotivating, because I've always been like into the independent publishing and the openness of RSS. And, for a while that really fired me up, getting more involved in the Podcast Standards Project and, being like, okay, we're going to like improve RSS. We're going to innovate on top of RSS. But even that, there's like that. I think the worst feeling in the world is just this feeling of like, is this effort that I'm applying to this thing, is it worth the output that we're getting? And likewise, is there somewhere else I could be applying that effort that would be maybe more motivating or energizing? And it's so hard to know because, again, on one hand, things are great.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, there's part of me that's like, I wonder. And maybe there's also, for me, one difference between you and I is just like, because I still have all these kids, there's like, through college, supporting the kids through college, I just still have, probably at least another decade of helping my kids get established as adults. And there's still part of me that is still kind of building up my personal nest egg, even for retirement and things like that. So financially, I'm still looking at okay, I got to support my kids through this. And then it's like, oh, and then I still got to like continue to build up a good nest egg for when I retire. And so, yeah, I'm just always thinking about at 45, how many more years do I have in me?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think about the same thing, and that, we don't have kids, but it's at the same time, it's like, you got to prepare for some unknown future of like, how much money are we going to need, or what's retirement like, or how much is all this stuff going to cost? It's like totally unknown at this point. It's not, I don't think you can depend on anything anymore. So
yeah, I mean, and even as stable as Transistor is, I think in the back of my mind, there's still always like, maybe we need to hedge our bets. Maybe we need to, and you see like Ian Landsman at HelpSpot is doing this right now. He's building a second product, and HelpSpot's doing fine, but there's always that feeling of like, okay, I got this thing that's working, but wouldn't I feel like a dummy if in 10 years, everything had fallen apart and I hadn't also made a backup plan,
And that is one option we could do, is as a company to spin off a new thing. But I don't think we've necessarily had any of those ideas. A few here and there, but I think they're all kind of related to podcasting, and maybe.
Yeah, I think if we did something else, it would have to be adjacent to podcasting. Personally, I would like it to be in the creator market. I've been thinking a lot about Spots still, spots.fm, which was this idea you and I had early on. And at the time we didn't pursue it because we started going down that path and we were like, what are we doing? We're two people. We can't do this. And we decided to just, double down on the core business. But there is something about sponsorships, and I think enabling creators to have any piece of content, which was the original vision of Spots, any piece of content sponsored, where you could have these sponsor blocks kind of everywhere, and people can just grab a block, grab a spot, and say, "Oh, you're making a new YouTube video on the pharmaceutical industry. Well, I want to sponsor that episode." Or you write a weekly newsletter. Well, I want to sponsor your next 6 months. Or you have sponsored posts on Instagram. Well, I want to sponsor 5 of them. And that might be worth looking at again. That might be one adjacent idea that we could pursue. Going back to Jason Cohen's framework, the one thing I really loved that was, identifying what each person wants in a partnership. And then he said, both partners need to be equally committed to helping the other person get what they want. And it's so simple, but I just thought that was such a beautiful way of describing really any partnership or any marriage or anything. Having that idea of, okay, this person's an individual and they have things they want. I'm an individual, I have things I want. And the key is we just need to be equally committed to helping each other get what we want. Now, that's not to say everything's realistic or everything's going to happen. But
yeah. I mean, if if you want a yacht, like that's
I do want a yacht.
Not going to happen. Okay.
And the other thing that was helpful from Jason was just saying, like, this is kind of a process you need to do every year. I think we have done a version of this most years where you and I've gotten together and at least, reviewed things and said, okay, what do we want? And he says it's messy, like you say, okay, what would need to be true? For example, this is such a great question. What would need to be true for Justin to really like this industry again? And on one hand, one thing that I've been trying is like, well, I could get more involved with podcast standards and invest more time and leadership and energy in the podcast standards project. So I've been trying that out. And there's part of that's been really gratifying. A part of me going to this conference in Dallas, I was like, okay, well, if I'm not feeling it there, I'm done, And maybe unfortunately, or fortunately, there's just so many people that came up to me individually and said, I really appreciate your efforts on this podcast standards project. And so, okay, that, there's part of that is motivating. But what else would need to be true for me to really feel good about the podcast industry? Unfortunately, it would mean Apple Podcasts would need to step up in a much bigger way. And, I think Jason's kind of framing of this is if you're expecting, if you're basing your decisions on a hope that something will be true, and that thing is just very unlikely to be true, then you've got to consider that in terms of like what you're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, as close as we are with the Apple people and as nice as they are, like they do their own thing, right, on their own timeline, and
yeah,
who knows what that is, and usually it's they announce it the last minute.
Yeah, and it's
it's
kind of frustrating.
Yeah, a little bit, but
but this is the thing, like that's kind of like, you've got a friend and you're like, man, I'm tired of this friend always, doing this. And it's like, well, maybe you should just not go to the bar with your friend anymore, And so I don't know what the answer is, but I think just processing some of that has been.
Yeah, I think from my side of things, it's a little different. I mean, I don't go to as many conferences as you. I'm in the podcast industry, but I don't necessarily feel like that all the time because I'm just building the technology, and that's what's interesting to me is writing code and building things that are interesting and fun, and just, I like to see our customers use it and experience it and hopefully like it, but it's not like I feel the industry bearing down on me in any way, aside from the video stuff, which is the thing we've talked about for a long time. And it's sort of like this, I don't know, elephant in the room of like, how do we do this the right way if we're going to do it, and try to, like, I don't know, not even compete with YouTube, but just like, I don't know, operate alongside of them and just give in and be like, well, we're not going to beat them, so we might as well just join them.
Yeah.
Or something.
I mean, the podcast industry's kind of always had that because as independent as it is, like the protocol is independent, but the distribution has always been, Apple Podcasts, and then there was other, but even like Overcast. Like I would love to get a hold of Marco, and he's just hard to get a hold of. He's doing his thing and so we're all kind of like dependent on each other, and there is more collaboration possible. That's, again, one reason I got involved with Podcast Standards Project was I think we can advocate together as a group of hosting companies and independent apps. And, we could speak as a group to Apple. We can speak as a group to Spotify and to YouTube.
Yeah.
But there is this dependency that, to participate in the industry. I mean, you felt this, like there's been some things you've had to build with Apple and Spotify and YouTube that are real headaches. And we just have to do it because it's just got to get done. I think those, from an engineering perspective, those have been the most demotivating. When it's like,
yeah, those are pretty demotivating. Yeah. Some of the recent stuff too, even. I mean, this is a tangent, but yeah, I was trying to get some stuff done with an integration on my own. And then once Jason and I finally just sort of like started tag team and get together, it was like way more exciting and just like it's easy to forget that working with someone on something is way more motivating than not.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. Like diagnosing burnout or lack of motivation. Sometimes the answer is, like, I think they call that body doubling.
Yeah, I read about that recently only. Yeah, like the other day, and I was like, oh, interesting.
Like I've definitely discovered that. Like I've hired my kids to help me do certain things, and with my Canadian company, and that's like one of the things I'll often do is I'll be like, call them up and say, I just need you to be on the phone with me while I do these taxes.
Yeah.
And it is way more motivating to just have someone there, to be talking it out with them. I'll get frustrated and my daughter will be like, Dad, like, just calm down. Okay, what's, 3 things you could do right now to,
yeah.
We're social creatures,
Yeah.
So I think, but even that is an interesting observation, which is, I think what I like about this kind of reflecting time is it helps me to question my reality. So I'll give you an example. You and I have always been committed to remote work. Remote work is in so many ways awesome. It enabled you and I to start this company. It enables us to have people that live all over the world. It gives all of us flexibility. People have tried moving to Italy for a little while or going on a trip and just working while they're on the trip. It is incredible in so many ways. But it's also kind of refreshing to take a look at it and go, in so many ways, remote work sucks. It sucks to not go into an office and have people there, and be like, hey, can we just work on this together side by side? There's something about that is amazing and that we're missing out on. Everything is a series of pros and cons, but it's nice to at least reflect on how could this be different, or am I happy doing this? Would I be happier if it was different?
Yeah. We have our retreat coming up next week. In a couple of days, we're leaving. It's probably something we should talk about, but I feel like every time we get together as a team, it's like we get really excited and motivated about certain things. And then we all go home and it's like, it just sort of slowly, not really fizzles out, but you lose that momentum. And then some of it sticks and, some of it doesn't, but I feel like if we were maybe all together more often, it would kind of, linger on a little more.
That's such a good point. I didn't even think about that, but you're right. Again, it's pros and cons. There is a real advantage. I'm here in this co-working place and I have my own little cave here, my own little office. Mm-hmm. And the truth is, a lot of time I close the door and I'm just trying to focus on stuff in my own world. So there's an advantage to that. But Michael, who's on our team, is here in Vernon. And every once in a while, he'll stop by the co-working place and he'll knock on my door and say, hey, I just want to ask you about this, or can we work on this together? And that there's an energy about that, which is just running into somebody, and it kind of the thread. So if you start a thread at the retreat, and it's like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to focus on this. We're going to build this. Like monetization is something we've wanted to do from the day you and I got together. We have mock-ups of a Stripe donation feature from almost the first week. And I think part of the reason we haven't been able to execute on that is if the thread just kind of gets lost. It's easy to get lost when you're not running to get into each other all the time. If you and I were in the same town, and it's like, hey, John, let's go for coffee. And we walk to the coffee shop. And as we're talking, it's like, oh man, whatever happened to that? We gotta do that thing, I was just in Toronto and went and hung out with Adam Wathen at his house. And it was so interesting. He has this beautiful home, but the first, you go in the entryway and then the first room off to the left is this kind of big workspace. And he's kind of set it up as a co-working space for him and Steve, his co-founder. And Steve comes by every single day.
Really?
Every single day. And it's just kind of and while I was there, Caleb Porzio had driven up from Buffalo and he was working out of that little space. And so every single day, Adam wakes up, goes and makes himself a cup of coffee, goes in, and some days Steve's sitting there at the desk. And that's just such an interesting to see how other people work and how they keep their energy and motivation. And the rest of their team is remote, but yeah, there's something about being in person that is very motivating that you just lose when you're remote.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and maybe there's ways this is what, again, is great about Jason Cohen's framework, because then you're at least imagining okay, what you can say, okay, you know what? I want to work on a team that's more co-located. Okay, well, let's go explore that. And then you just explore all the different paths and be like, okay, well, I could move to Fort Collins and be like, oh, then I'd have to live in the US. I don't really want to live in the US. John's not going to move to Canada. He just got settled in Fort Collins. Okay, what are some other things? We could just get way more disciplined about flying to see each other. We could have more team retreats. We could make sure that the next people we hire are in our respective towns. So we just have, folks.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of things you could explore there. Or it could even just be like something as simple as like, if you and I record a podcast more frequently, we feel more connected and more motivated. And
yeah, that's true.
So there's all sorts of ways you can,
could be that.
You can kind of manage that. Running a company is interesting because I think this is something that you just keep having to learn is, you and I come together to work on this idea. And even that, any sort of partnership has its own challenge. Like you are kind of glued to that other person in a way. Mm-hmm. And there's this dynamic that Jason's exposed, which is, we both have to be kind of committed to helping the other person get what they want. And it was so easy in the beginning because basically it was like, we both wanted the freedom.
It was the same thing. Yeah. We wanted the exact same thing. And now, I don't know, maybe not.
Maybe not. But also, I think what's interesting is, one of the things that I think ended up being motivating for us was like, you know what? Like it'd be like you wanted to work with another engineer and I wanted to work with some other people and I didn't want to do customer support all the time. And, we ended up hiring other people to help us. It's been great. Like people are continuously astounded. Again, when I was in Dallas, we were sitting around at this table with a very large podcast company that does advertising and everything. And she turned to me and she goes, "How many people are on your team?" I said, "Oh, we have 6." And she's like, "What?" And James Cridlin was there kind of laughing. And he's like, "Yeah, their team is incredibly efficient." So it's been incredible to have this little team. But then it does add this other dynamic, which is Jon and I, the team needs direction. The team needs leadership. The team needs, and each team member also has their own individual things that are motivating them.
Yeah.
And Jon and I need to, and I think this became even more prescient because you and I knew we had this retreat that we're going on. And we're like, what is going to be the focus of the retreat? Like, we want to do some work sessions together. And then we also want to be able to say, hey, folks, like, we're steering the ship in this direction. So Jon and I need to get aligned. Mm-hmm. We need to decide, first of all, personally, what do we individually want, right? Like, we don't want to be going after something that's somebody else's dream. We want to be pursuing something that we want. And then we have to translate that into a vision and a direction for the team. I think that's what brought up this whole idea of sabbaticals.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So yeah, one thing that we've talked about for a while, we talked about this almost from the beginning, is this idea of it'd be nice after we'd been working on Transistor for 5, 6, 7 years to take a sabbatical. Mm-hmm. And as I was talking to Jason Cohen, he was also like, you know what? Like, also, you've been doing this for almost 8 years. He's like, it's time to take a break. I will say you and I have not been great at taking breaks. We've taken a few.
I mean, we've taken vacations, but I don't feel like we never really disconnect that much.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to do that.
Yeah, it's hard for me too.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of a sabbatical is like exciting, but sort of terrifying at one point. At the same time, like, I think we're both so used to it. It's just like, we've been doing it for so long. It's like part of our lives. We don't hate it. We're not miserable. So it's not like the stress of it is forcing us to take a sabbatical, but I think it would probably be good to take a break and like let your mind kind of wander on other stuff and have some other, I don't know, goals lined up that you want to mm-hmm. personally do or whatever. But yeah, the thought of it is interesting.
Yeah, a little bit
weird. I mean,
a little bit scary. I think the hard thing for me, and this isn't just with Transistor, but you and I this is why one reason you and I worked well together for so long is we like to work. And there's something like, I'm just used to getting up every day and cranking this crank of work. And I have been doing that almost every single day, almost every single week since I was 20. Get up every day, and I'm just used to pulling this crank.
Same.
Yeah, we're very similar. And I think it is a bit scary to think, like, I don't know what my life would be like if I'm not consuming. This is kind of the thing I hate about weekends and vacations, is that if I truly disconnect, I've gotten a bit better at this, but like normally I'm just activated in a way that is just kind of always on, consuming information, acting on information, putting things in motion. And putting things in motion, it kind of requires that you continually crank this crank. You're continuously consuming some sort of fire hose from customers and from the internet and from the industry, and keeping your eyes wide open for opportunities and looking at threats. And it's just always on my mind. And to think about not being on that treadmill or that hamster wheel is kind of like what would happen to me,
you know? I think you'd have to like pre-plan on replacing that with something else, whatever that may be. But
I would be interested if anyone out in listener land has done a sabbatical, or even, one thing I think you and I have been throwing around is like, man, a 3-month sabbatical, which is what we've always kind of thought of, is there's something about that just feels overwhelming. And I have friends that like worked for Automatic, which did 3-month sabbaticals. And they said that sometimes it felt like their first sabbaticals there's so much pressure leading up to it. And, then they ended up feeling like a lot of it was just like, it was too overwhelming thinking about a 3-month block at first. And so, I've been talking about even just like me taking a concerted vacation that's 2, 3, 4 weeks long and practicing truly disconnecting,
deleting all the apps on your phone.
Like deleting everything off my phone, just putting systems in place, like so other people are, any emails get looked at. And the advantage you and I have is that we are 2 people, and so we can trade off. Like there's always going to be a leader available, Yeah.
I mean, for me, I think my concern now is like, I would feel bad leaving Jason as like the sole engineer. Cause I was in that spot for a couple of years, and it's a lot. I mean, things run well, but like, problems happen. And then like Jason has stuff he wants to do that doesn't involve work, and he's not always going to be around. So that'd be something we'd have to figure out.
Yeah.
And talk to Jason, or like find someone to help out temporarily or even permanently. And who knows? Yeah. I don't know.
It'd be interesting if there's like a on-demand consultant that you could just bring in for those times. Like just say like, hey, like we just need somebody to call who knows our stack and especially our infrastructure stuff, that can parachute in if we need somebody.
Yeah.
But I mean, that might just not exist. That's one of the reasons you hire people, is that it's nice to have, some folks that can be kind of always on. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's always going to be obstacles, but I do think in terms of like compared to a lot of other teams, we're a small team, but there is enough help and overlap there. And the other thing is that you can be disconnected, but the rule is, hey, like if you need to text me or call me, you have my text, my text and my phone, and I will likely be in somewhere that has cell phone coverage. So I mean, unless I'm like, unless I go back to Guatemala and hike that volcano, I might be But even then,
even then, probably cell phone service.
Worst case scenario, if there's no cell phone service, and let's say everything goes to hell for 48 hours, it's probably still going to be fine. Like, yes, that would be hard. Yes, it would be stressful. But even in the worst case scenario, like everything's fallen down, there's, servers are on fire and whatever. Even then, it wouldn't, I think it would still be fine,
Yeah, could be. I mean, there's scenarios where it wouldn't be, but that would be pretty rare, I think.
Well, this is good, man. I'm glad we got to do it. I think let's try. I'm going to try to put this on our schedule weekly again and just see how it feels.
Man.
But if I put it on weekly, then we might skip.
Maybe monthly.
Maybe it'll be monthly, but at least I'll put it on the schedule. You might not believe this, but we still have people supporting us on Patreon.
I can't believe it.
All these years.
I mean, that's probably thanks to you actually posting some episodes once in a while with other people.
That's right.
So thank you.
That's right. We've got Pascal from sharpen.page. We got rewardful.com. We've got Greg Park, Mitchell Davis from recruitkit.com.au, Marcel Fale from wearebold.af, Bill Kondo, Ward from memberspace.com, Evandro Sassy. Now we're getting into the names that have been here forever. Austin Lovelace, Michael Sitver, Colin Gray from Alitu. Nice to see you, Colin. And Dave Junta.
Junta. You got to meet Dave.
Yeah, Dave was at the wedding. Dave and I became fast buds there. It was,
Dave's great.
I was just texting with Dave yesterday. I have
nice.
A long text message thread with Dave. Yeah,
awesome.
It's been nice to keep that connection going.
Yeah, thanks to everyone for continually supporting us.
Yeah.
During our absence. I don't know.
And also just being around, that's one thing I think I've realized about this show is, we started this journey and then just so many other people joined us. And whether it was just listening, whether it was listening and writing us an email, whether it was listening and, sending us a DM with some ideas, so many listeners became customers. Some listeners became employees, like Josh Anderton was a longtime listener.
I mean, we just had a customer the other day say something in our customer support chat about he, enjoyed listening to the early episodes.
Isn't that wild?
Of this podcast. Yeah. It's like, what?
I'm just blown away by it. We appreciate it. If you want us to be back every week, let us know.
Just yell at us. Let us know.
Every Friday, just send us a message saying, "Hey guys, can you please record?" And then maybe if we get enough nudges, we'll get back on the mics. All right, everyone. Till next time.
Yeah. See you next time.
Bye.